Hey guys, Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina, and it is time for that live stream show. Welcome to the Sunday night live stream show. Thanks for joining us and hanging out on this Sunday night. It is time for Off the Hook with Captain Hubbard, another episode of our Sunday night live stream show. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to be giving away free fishing trips, $1,500 in free fishing trips, a 5-hour half day for two, a 10-hour all day for two, and a 39-hour for one. Plus, we're going to be answering your questions live, talking about what's going on, showing you photos of what we've been catching, talking about the weather, going over some announcements, covering some issues, and discussing what you want to hear. That's right, this show happens every Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on this January 26th Sunday night. Afternoon, night. You know what I mean. Thanks for hanging out and tuning in. We appreciate you being a part of our Hubbard's Marina family. We are going to be getting into the photos first and then showing you what we've been catching inshore, then working our way near shore and offshore. Then we're going to get into the weather a little bit, then some announcements, some topics, and then your questions. If you want to win free stuff tonight, here's how you enter to win. Here's how you win. And then we're going to go over how you get your questions answered live during the show. In order to win free trips, you do have to comment one time on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream. You can watch on YouTube, you can watch on Instagram, you can watch on TikTok, you can watch whatever platform you want. But if you want to be entered for a chance to win, you do have to go over to Facebook, find the Hubbard's Marina page. We like it if you like or follow the page, or like and follow the page, but find the live video. Comment one time. If you can, make sure you like the live video too, but comment at least one time. Tell us where you're watching from. Say hello, say whatever. One comment on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook live stream is what enters you for a chance to win. Then you have to watch the show live, because it's really important to watch the show live, because what happens is at random intervals throughout the show, we're going to do those giveaways. And the giveaways happen, and one lucky winner gets called, their name appears on the screen, then you've got 5 minutes or less to go ahead and text us your full home address to the phone number on the screen. That's how you enter, by commenting once. That's how you claim it, by texting us within 5 minutes to prove you're watching live. So you got to watch the whole show, you got to comment once, and then you got to be ready to text us within 5 minutes your home address if you're picked as one of the lucky winners. So that's how you enter, that's how you claim it. As far as getting your questions answered live during the show, you can do that from Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or Facebook. All you have to do is text your question in to the phone number on the screen. That's right. Phone number on the screen there, our main office number, 727-393-1947. Text that phone number, any question you want answered or discussed live during the show, and we'll try to get to it as best we can. We typically can knock out all those questions, so definitely don't be afraid. If you want something discussed, go ahead and ask. It's up to you. Also, want to make sure we give a shout out to our friends over there at Gator Jim's Tackle, 3301 Pinellas Point Drive South in St. Pete. If you haven't stopped by to see our friends over at Gator Jim's, you're missing out. Huge selection, killer deals, really great people over there at Gator Jim's Tackle. So make sure you stop by, say hello, tell them Hubbard's Marina sent you, and they even have a free gift for the young angler in your life. If you bring a young angler with you, they do have a gift for them as well. So make sure you stop on by and tell them Hubbard's Marina sent you. Also, we want to make sure we go over all the great things we have going on tonight. But first, we want to give a shout out to those who are sending stars. We had a lot of stars senders to kick us off tonight. We had a little bit of computer problems, so we were a little late starting the show, and then we had a little bit of a rocky start. I think it blocked some of the beginning star senders from me. I think it cut a few of you guys off, because I'm pretty sure I saw Jeff Reedy give 1,200 stars and say happy birthday, but I don't see his name in my list for some reason. So hopefully he's the only one I'm missing. If I don't call your name as a star sender, I apologize. Like I said, I think it might have cut off some of the names at the very beginning of the show. But I did see Todd Stutzman. We had James McCollum with a big 500 stars. Michael Hios with a big 500 stars. Darley Way with 99 stars. Stephen Batchelor. We had Jason Gonzalez. David Pruitt with a big 1,000. Angel Parent Perez with a big 1,200. Thank you, Angel. And Larry White with also another big 1,200 stars. For those watching on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, stars are a way for Facebook viewers to show their support and help fuel the show. So we really appreciate all those stars folks have been sending on Facebook. And then also, speaking of supporters, we want to make sure we give a shout out to our supporters group on Facebook. It's only $4.99 a month to join. You get private access to our private group, a little bit of behind the scenes info, more connectivity, more one-on-one conversations, a little bit of behind the scenes info, plus advance notice on things. We talk quite a bit to our supporters group throughout the week, and they get a little bit of inside info. It's only $4.99 a month, plus you get access to the private supporters community group, and you get access to the private after show as well. So huge value for $4.99, less than $5, less than a cup of coffee. Huge value for a month-long membership. So check it out. Highly, highly recommend. All right. So we talked about all those things. Let's get into what we're catching and show you some photos of what's been going on out there as of late. First things first, we're going to start inshore and show you guys what's going on inshore and what's been happening on the inshore side of things. Starting out inshore, the redfish. The redfish bite has been pretty hot as of late. Definitely doing really well redfish-wise. Give us a second here. Is it working, Josh? I don't know. It was messing up for me, but maybe that's my fault. Give Josh a second here. It's going. All right, we're going to go back to the photos. All right, so redfish bite has been super hot. It's been cold. This past week was epic. It snowed in Florida. There's some really cool photos of snow on the beach up in the Panhandle, Pensacola, Panama City, Destin. Got a lot of snow. Us in St. Pete, we didn't get snow. We just got frigid temperatures. These cold-tolerant species like redfish, trout, sheep's head have been the kind of go-to species in this cooler weather, and the redfish did not disappoint. Throughout the area, the redfish bite has been hot, even this past week with all that cold weather, wind, and nastiness. The redfish were prolific throughout the area on the grass flats, mangrove shorelines, oyster bars, even dock lines, all really hot despite the cold temperatures. So some really good action throughout the area. The sheep's head turned on for us. Nice murky stirred up water really got the sheep's head firing. You can find the snook, but you got to go pretty far back into the upper bay and back bay waters. You can tell how dark this snook is. It really shows you that this fish was caught way up in the bay and some really dark tannic water, probably some brackish water. I wouldn't be surprised. Also, the trout bite has been really good throughout the area. The trout have been pretty darn thick, like the redfish. Virtually everywhere and anywhere you look, we're finding these speckled trout. Definitely aggressive. And some larger size trout, we're getting these thicker yellowmouth trout a little bit more commonly this time of year. Fishing those potholes, those edges, those grass flats, dock lines, even around the bridge. We have a new moon this week. The new moon should really concentrate these trout and even some redfish and maybe a few snook around the dock lights and bridge lights. Virtually any artificial light source at night this week should be loaded up inshore with trout, redfish, and maybe a few snook. So it's a great week coming up for that nighttime artificial light fishing for sure. And that's about it. Inshore, we'll work our way a little bit deeper and show you guys what's going on near shore and offshore just in a second here as we pull up those photos. The bite near shore and offshore has been a little bit trickier. There's not much to show you tonight just because we weren't really able to get out there much this past week. But this week coming up is looking up. So I've got some positive news on the weather front as a little teaser for our weather segment coming up, but we'll show you what's been happening a little deeper. We're going to switch on over here. Definitely seeing some nice fish when we're able to get out there before the weather. At the end of last week, we were able to sneak out there. Oh, there's a redfish photo in there by accident. Sorry, guys. We were able to sneak out there before the weather, crush some really nice fish. When the Flying Hub 2 makes it offshore, they do really well. We're going to talk a little bit about that today and the extreme trip we had today. Even the 10-hour trip was able to sneak out there one day and did really well on some nice red grouper action. Look at that Flying Hub 2 fatty right there, Captain Joe. With a very beautiful red grouper. That is a stud, a dinosaur of a red grouper, if you will. Some catch and release red snapper and some nice trigger fish as well. But that's about it offshore. I mean, we haven't been able to get out there too much. Today was a great example of a classic cold front situation. So let's get right into the weather, and I want to talk a little bit about today, and I want to show you a little bit about what's going on weather-wise. So we're going to pop on over to hubbardsmarina.com and show you guys what's going on our weather links page and talk to you guys a little bit about the weather update. Because today pretty much played out as a classical post-cold front bite. So let me show you guys here real quickly. hubbardsmarina.com. We're going to hit the main home page of the website. We're going to click fishing trips, and then second one down, weather links. We're going to start right here in our 5 and 10 hour forecast area. And where's my graph? Can you zoom out a little bit? Maybe it'll bring it. Oh, there it goes. It just had to wait a second. It was thinking. Captain Mike's calling in. Let's do that. Let's take Capt Mike's phone call. We'll talk to him a little bit, and then we'll get into this weather that I'm excited to share with you. But you can see why I'm excited. All that dark blue coming up. We've got some really, really nice weather to discuss. And like I said, today was a classic example of what I've been preaching about this cold front weather. What's up, Capt Mike?
How are you there, birthday boy?
I am doing well, my friend. Feeling a year older, though.
Yeah? You feeling it?
I'm feeling it a little bit, man. It's crazy.
Yeah?
I've been told this week that getting older is not for the faint of heart, and that resonates, man.
We'll let you know when you start to get old, bro.
I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned already, but at least my back is feeling better, so there's that.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
man. So
right,
I heard you're going up to Jacksonville.
I am. I leave for Jacksonville Tuesday. Going to spend the night and then fish with the legendary Captain Terry Lacoste.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So I'm really looking forward to it. So hopefully the weather that we're seeing, that we're getting here, will help us up there a little bit. He seems to be pretty confident. So we're going to go up there and try and catch some of those big Jacksonville redfish and big trout in the back country.
Nice.
So
That'll
it should
be
be
fun.
pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm super excited, man. Super excited.
Did you have Rogal on with you Saturday morning?
I did.
Nice.
I
He
did.
was cool to listen to last week on Sunday, so I'm glad he was able to fill in for me this past Saturday. I'm sure it was another good conversation.
It was. We had quite a few calls, so I didn't get to pick his brain as much as I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
He's, being a Safety Harbor native and spending his whole life here, he's really fishy. I love getting with those guys and just kind of picking their brain. He's very passionate about it, so he was very good. And then we had Robbie Hunzecker from SecureOutdoorsUSA.com again this morning. He had just come in from Steenahatchee from a tournament, so they finished 12th up there. Said it was really interesting with that water temp being, that cold up there. So they were able to catch a few, so we talked about that. So it was good. We actually had I had Mike Rogal on the podcast, and I had Jeff Harrell on the podcast. So those podcasts will drop here in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome, man. That'll be fun.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, it was good. It's really like, so when you get, it's just like you and I sitting there talking about it. You get, two knuckleheads like you and I that are so passionate about it. Same thing with me and Mike Rogal. If you can get those types of guys to, chat with, it's just really interesting. A lot of our guests, Travis Thompson and Bobby Woodard, and they're so passionate about the outdoors and fishing, and love our waterways so much that it usually lends itself to a positive conversation.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. I'm glad to hear it. How was fishing this past week?
I didn't go. Are you kidding me? It was terrible. I mean, I don't know anybody
You weren't
that
able to
I don't even know
hide
anybody.
under a bridge and do some sheep's head fishing?
I don't know anybody that even was pushing the envelope. It was so windy. I'm sure there was a couple guys, but
Dang.
I kept getting good reports from Captain Scott Moore, and I were kind of chirping back and forth, just kind of watching that cold water snook kill as a possibility. But I was getting really good reports from him that the fish down around Anna Maria and the canals were doing good. They were lethargic, but they weren't they weren't floating or getting crazy or looking like they were in harm's way. So that was a positive. And then, like you were just talking about, this weather that's coming in looks absolutely incredible. Knock on wood, it all stays that way all week. But it looks like things should get really, really good, especially toward midweek. Man, you get a couple of days of warm up here. They haven't eaten good in a while. You put a big old chunky shrimp in front of them, boy, it should be on. So I'm excited. I really wish. I mean, I'm happy to be going to Jacksonville. That guy Terry Lacoste up there is a lot like Captain Scott Moore. One of the original inshore guides up in the Jacksonville, Fernandina Beach area. So it's going to be really interesting to get to fish with him and pick his brain and learn from him. But I wouldn't be bummed out at all if I could get here and do some trout fishing. The trout fishing right before this severe cold was so good. I got so many great reports. We caught some trout, and then some other guys really got on some big bombers in some areas that they normally get this time of year. So I'm super excited to get back here and get to work. But we got to film some shows and kind of get caught up here from a little bit of a weather delay.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a wild week for sure.
Yeah, a little crazy.
But
a little
this week
crazy
coming up looks beautiful. So looks like we're gonna get back to it.
It just kept looking better and better and better as it was getting closer. I'm like, this looks epic. I mean, just epic. I mean, it's disappointing, right? Hopefully, but it's disappointing that it's in the middle of the week and not over a weekend stretch. But you got this time of year, you take it where you can get it. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is that time. I think it's too early to say this, right? But we have winter. We have like that fake winter in the beginning of October, middle of October, around the end of October, maybe even beginning of November, where you start to get your first cold front. And people are like, oh, it's winter. And it cools off a little bit. But then you got 10 days where it gets back into the upper 70s, and it's kind of like back to Florida. And then all of a sudden those cold fronts, they get closer together. You start getting 2 cold fronts a week or one big one through the week. Well, and then it just heats up, right? And then you start getting cold fronts more frequently. And the last 3 weeks, even 4 weeks, it seems like we're getting 2, maybe even 3 cold fronts a week. But then we start getting into that later winter here in Florida where those cold fronts start to get a little bit further apart. And I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, it's not February yet, so I mean, I guess it's too early to say that. But
way too early, buddy. Way too early.
But
it's way too, the whole time you were saying that, like, way too early, buddy.
But we've got 5 days between fronts this week, Mike. So there's hope.
Well,
there's hope. You got to be more optimistic in life.
I'm optimistic. You know what I do? What happens as you get old, and you're not there yet, but as you get old, you just start to kick back. And
he always plays this card on me, guys.
We're just going to take it as it comes. I'm hoping, like you said, I'm optimistic that but I've been here before, and it usually, especially in years when we have this kind of cold run, we start to get a couple teaser weeks where things get a little normal, and then, we'll fall into some more cold fronts. I would guess we'll get a couple more, which wouldn't totally bum me out. We don't want to race ourselves into 85-degree, weather ASAP. I don't. No, I just don't think it's good for our inshore fishing. I don't want it to bust loose too early. That screws up tarpon season and all kinds of stuff. And again, I don't want to do what we just did either. I don't want to do 30-degree mornings anymore. I get it. But I still think we need some of those, upper 40s mornings just to kind of keep things crawling along here. Keep the bait at bay. Keep it away a little bit. We don't want any of that stuff starting to come in because we get a 2-week or 3-week warm-up, and it gets cold again and kind of stalls it. Fish get confused. They're in between transitions. I just, just take our time here, big fella.
Buddy,
You know what I mean? The
buddy,
young bull and the old bull. You know the story, right?
buddy. I just looked up the 7-day forecast because I was curious because we have such a long window of nice weather. Guess the high temperature forecasted for this Friday.
I thought we were close to 80, right? 70, upper 70?
78, buddy.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, that's
so
great.
pumped.
And again, I think that's going to be good because I don't want that water temp to stay in the upper 40s, low 50s.
It was
should warm up a little bit.
53. It was 53 at Egmont Key today.
I had a couple of guys in just to the north of us up towards Tarpon Springs that were recording 49 and 48.
Whoa.
Over this cold front stretch. That's pretty cold. And that's what I'm saying. We
That's
just don't.
Cold.
I don't want it that cold for long, long stretches. Again, I think it's good that we get there because it cleans up a lot of the algae, does a lot of positive things for us. Captain Scott and I talked about it on the radio today. Some of the bad water issues we were having to the south seem to have backed off a little bit with this power cold. So, I think the cold's a blessing. I've talked about it for years. I think it's a good thing. I just don't want it to last too long. The other thing is, I've been living here since January 1st, 1990. I'm a little soft. I'm ready for it to warm up a little bit. Doesn't have to stay that cold, dude. That walking out in the morning and it's in the 30s, dude. I'm over that. I don't want to do that anymore. If I'm being honest.
I feel you.
Yeah. So before you know it, we'll be sweating 24/7 as we're walking back and forth from the hotel to ICAP.
When you open your door at 4:30 in the morning to walk outside, and you get choked with humidity, and the back sweat starts rolling from the front door to your truck, that's Florida, baby. I love it.
That's happy D-Hub time. We got to do something with that boy, Josh. We got to do something with him. You and I got to talk, come up with a plan, get this boy under control.
Oh, man. Well, we appreciate it, Mike. I'll let you get back to your NFL games, and hopefully I'll catch up with you soon, brother. Have a good week in Jacksonville.
Sounds good, brother. I appreciate you again. Happy birthday, and have a great week, everybody. Catch them up. It's going to be a good one.
Yes, sir. We're enjoying the warm weather.
Yes, sir. I get it.
See you, buddy.
See you, pal.
Yes. It is warming up. And I don't know, man. Let's look at the weather and you guys decide. Because Capt Mike's right. It is way, way, way too early to start talking about the cold front spread now. But look at this. Look at this. All right, so we had cold front weather backing off today. It's calming down today. Tomorrow looks gorgeous. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, gorgeous. We get a little cold front, very weak cold front this upcoming weekend, Friday into Saturday. And then look at it again. Gorgeous for 3 days. I mean, I don't know. That's a pretty long stretch of warming. And let's just scroll down to the bottom of the Weather Links page here and hit the Fox 13 7-day forecast so you guys can see what I was looking at. Is this it right here? Oh, yeah. So Friday, 79. And then that cold front rolls through. What in the world just happened? Computer is acting funny tonight, guys. There it goes. All right, so it gets to 79 Friday. That little cold front rolls through, but it's not a strong front. It goes right back to a high of 77 Sunday. So it's going to really, really warm up here, and we've got a long stretch. And this is going to be good for fishing because today was a classic example. I talked about it earlier. So I've been saying for 3 months now, the best fishing. When is the best fishing? This time of year. The best fishing is after a cold front goes through, when the water has time to calm down, clear up, and things get back to normal. But it does happen faster the further you go from shore. Near shore, within 100 foot of water, the water gets stirred up more. It's more affected by the cold temperature, and it can get colder faster, and it takes longer to warm up. Offshore, 120 foot of water or more, where we fish on our 12-hour, 39-hour, 44-hour, it's so deep. Even if it's really cold in the air, it's hard for that cold temperature to penetrate to the bottom. Plus, it's really hard for the water to get so stirred up that it really affects the bottom fish. So offshore behind cold fronts, you can go offshore right behind a cold front as soon as it calms down, and the fishing's really good. Today was a perfect example of that. It finally calmed down, things were looking nice, and we got out there. And unfortunately, the 5-hour half day struggled. It was really slow fishing, the water was really stirred up. It was 53 degrees at the Egmont Key buoy, still extremely cold, and the fishing was just really tough. We had to really work for it, really grind it out, and just barely caught a few fish. The 10-hour all day today on the hub went out there 15, 16, 17 miles, and they struggled too. It was still a little stirred up. It was still really cold. It did get really nice. By the end of the day today, I took my 3- and 5-year-old to the beach. It was beautiful this afternoon, but the water hasn't had time to really warm up yet, and it hasn't had time to really clear up yet. I think tomorrow it's going to start getting really good, and this week is going to be stellar. However, the Flying Hub 2 went out there today. The Flying Hub 2 went out there into offshore waters, much deeper, and they absolutely smoked it. They had 13 people, and they caught let's see here. I sent myself the message so I wouldn't forget. They caught 7 mutton snapper, 4 mutton snapper on the first spot. They got 22 red grouper for 13 people, and they got 5 scamp grouper as well. Plus, on top of that, they had a few mangroves, some porgies, a couple vermilion snapper too. It was a stellar, epic Flying Hub 2 12-hour extreme trip. And that is a perfect, classical example of right behind a cold front. The water near shore hasn't had time to calm down and clear up, but we were able to get offshore, and those fish were ready. And that same thing will happen near shore probably tomorrow. And it's so hard because before a front, you know the fish are going to chew, and it's easier to time that because you know when the weather's going to start getting bad. At least the forecast is somewhat accurate. So typically right before a front, the fish bite really well. But the backside of the front, you don't know when they're going to turn on. You don't know when that water is going to be warmed up enough, when it's going to be cleared up enough. But if you're out there when it turns on, they chew, and the fishing is stellar. And this time of year, the fishing can be really tough if you go out there and it's cold, the water's still stirred up, like today's 5-hour, like today's 10-hour, like the 12-hour night snapper last night. Really tough. But if you go out there and you hit it right in between these fronts when the water warms up and things are looking good, man, they crushed it. And they had a really good trip out there. And that should be the moral of the story this week. So very excited about the weather and the things to come as well. Want to give a shout out to some of the star senders. We had Tara hit us with a big 2,000 stars. Thank you, Tara. Adam Franklin, what's up, buddy? Gary Camage, Jason Richmond, and LaShonda Brown with a big 500 stars. Thank you, LaShonda. All right. Let's get into, we talked about the photos, what we're catching. We talked about the weather. We got our Capt Mike check-in. Let's do our first live giveaway of the night. We'll get into some of these announcements, and then we'll get into your questions as well. If you do have questions, make sure you text them in to the phone number at the bottom of the screen. Let's do the 10-hour first, since I said it. 10-hour all-day trip for one lucky winner. 2 guests, 1 lucky winner. Let's see who won. You're going to have to change the screen, Josh. Oh, it might work. No, it doesn't work. Lucky winner is Grace Foster from New Jersey. Congratulations, Grace. She's got a cool photo of some fluke there. Nice. Always cool to see a fisherman from up north. Grace Foster. No, up north they call them fluke. And they're a little different than a flounder. I assume they're fluke. That picture is like this small, so I'm guessing. But when she says New Jersey and holding up fish like that, I'm going to guess they're fluke. But you know what happens when you assume, Josh? Yes, I do. All right, so we talked about the weather and all that good stuff. Let's get into some of these announcements. First things first, the shark issue. We had a lot of questions about the shark issue. We had a really good comment and discussion this week on the shark issue, so I wanted to breach that subject during our live show. And I plan to sit down this Friday with our new video guru and put together a cool, in-depth YouTube video for you guys, so stay tuned for that. But highlights on the shark issue. So let's see how quick I can do this. It's an in-depth problem. The shark issue really is more of a systemic problem, right? And when I say shark issue, a lot of people are like, what? There is a problem with the management of sharks, right? We have this thing in the Gulf of Mexico where we want to try to rebuild these stocks, right? And that's the goal. MSA, Magnuson-Stevens Act, that governs fisheries, dictates that you have to rebuild overfished or fishery stocks that are undergoing overfishing. Both really tough terminology to swallow because they can mean different things, and they can happen even from things that aren't involved with fishing. But I digress. Essentially, certain species of sharks were deemed overfished, so they've been put under this rebuilding plan, much like we saw with red snapper. Why our red snapper season in the Gulf got down to 3 days back in 2016 was because of an MSA dictated rebuilding plan. So sharks got put under a rebuilding plan too, specifically ridgeback sharks, which includes sandbars and duskies, also some coastal migratory sharks or coastal, I forget what they call them. I think it's coastal or near coastal species. But long story short, there's a lot of bull sharks. There's a lot of sandbars. There's a lot of duskies out there. There's a lot of sharks. A lot of sandbars. Sandbars are really aggressive. We see sandbars, and we have a lot of problems with sandbars. But bull sharks as well. You don't see as many hammerheads, but you see some big dogs and tigers, whites. We don't really see too many of those. Really, our big problem, our big gripe is with sandbars, and they're crazy protected in a silly rebuilding plan. So a rebuilding plan for red snapper was like, I think it was originally 18 years. It got moved to like 22 years. I think the worst it was at one point was like 24 years. Gag grouper rebuilding plan is 12 years. The shark rebuilding plan, one of them that I recall was like 112 years. So the problem with sharks is they are not managed by the Gulf Council. They're managed by HMS, which is another level above the Gulf Council in this NOAA bureaucracy, and it's really out of DC's Silver Springs, Maryland area. So you can't even access these people, and when you talk to these people, they really just don't care, and they kind of think it's funny. We actually had the Gulf Council, everybody was getting up to the podium and complaining about sharks, and the Gulf Council's like, hey guys, we don't manage sharks, and people still kept complaining about sharks. Well, after like 3 years, one of the Gulf Council staff or one of the Gulf Council members actually asked HMS to send a representative to a Gulf Council meeting to do a presentation about sharks, their management, and then to listen to public comment where all these fishermen are talking about how the shark population has exploded in the Gulf, and we're having all these interactions. And literally, these people came down from DC and sat in this meeting while fishermen talked about the issues we're seeing on the water. And they literally were like high-fiving each other saying, yeah, we're doing a good job. There's a bunch more sharks. So they're so out of touch with reality, and it's really sad. Plus, besides the mismanagement and the crazy overregulation, Another issue we face is MSA dictates you have to rebuild stocks, but it doesn't ever dictate to what level. What I mean by that is, all right, so you find a biomass, a population of fish, of whatever, that's undergoing overfishing or that's overfished and has to be rebuilt. Well, if the population size is 100 fish, let's just use even numbers, and they want to rebuild this depressed stock, well, the federal law says you have to rebuild the stock, but it doesn't tell you to rebuild it to any specific level. So all of a sudden you're told to rebuild it, but then you're like, where the hell do we rebuild it to? And unfortunately, HMS up in their Silver Springs Ivory Tower has decided to try to rebuild the shark population to like prehistoric, pre-man levels of like virgin stock where no one has ever killed a shark before, because they're just getting out of hand with the way they're trying to rebuild the stock. And the same conversations have happened around red snapper, right? Are we trying to rebuild red snapper to like 1920s level where they had historical data of that's all they caught in the Gulf of Mexico was red snapper? So you have to, I think there really needs to be a conversation congressionally about MSA and these rebuilding targets, right? Is we want a population to be healthy, but we also want it to be fishable, and we also don't want to throw off the food web, because one of the conversations needs to happen is EBFM, ecosystem-based fishery management. And you take a predator, an apex predator like a shark, and you say, hey guys, we're going to rebuild this stock. Let's make this population explode. What happens when you let an apex predator run rampant and grow and overpopulate out of control? What if we did that with wolves or grizzly bears or alligators or all the other terrestrial apex predators? Do you think people would have a problem if there was an overpopulation of wolves? We'd have a problem. They'd start eating little babies, and and we're already seeing that with sharks, right? Shark interactions with people on the water and at the beach is increasing. And it's really a big problem and a big discussion that needs to happen, because if the food web gets too top heavy, we let too many apex predators into the ecosystem and we allow that biomass to expand unchecked, it's going to start having downstream effects on that food web or that ecosystem. So those are a couple problems. The other problem is society. Have you watched Shark Week lately? Shark Week is literally a week-long, 24-hour-a-day propaganda fest about how humans are killing the oceans and all we do is kill everything, and you gotta save the sharks and go out to the beach today and go hug a shark. It's crazy. And now we have a population that doesn't live on the coast, that doesn't offshore fish, that doesn't see what we see on the water every day, and all they care about at home is the cuddly sharks they see on Shark Week, and they can't believe some fishermen would go out there and legally harvest a shark. I remember the last time we killed a shark, I had death threats for 6 months. It was perfectly legal. Death threats. I had a kindergarten teacher make her kindergarten class write me letters about how I'm a terrible person for killing a shark. I saved those letters somewhere too. They were really special. Crayons. I should bring those in. I digress. But those are big problems, right? The society of people who don't fish that feel really strongly about sharks, and then you have the problems with HMS, you have the problems with MSA, and you have people that literally just want to see the shark proliferate unchecked and out of control. And unfortunately, some tipping point has to happen, whether that's people getting attacked on beaches, so much so where they start having a real congressional conversation around it. I don't know. But it's very, very sad to see where we're going. So there is a big problem with sharks. I think there is too much regulation on them, and we have to keep pushing and keeping applying pressure, and we will. So we'll see where we go from there. All right. It was somewhat quick. The Gulf Council meeting agenda, I did want to go over this, but we don't have much time left in the show, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But I'm heading out.
We got 15 extra minutes.
Oh, because we started late? Yes. So we are going to run a little late tonight. All right. So the Gulf Council meeting, I am heading out to Louisiana to discuss, this is the wrong thing that I did not want to click on, meeting materials. That's what I like. So if you go, let me show you how to navigate here. So if you go to gulfcouncil.org, the homepage of the Gulf of Mexico Fishery Management Council. Right there, you'll see the calendar, and you'll see these little blue dots next week, and you can see that the blue dots are showing you the Gulf Council meeting. You can click that link, and it will bring you right here to the meeting page. You can see where the meeting is. If you want to listen, you can register for the webinar if you want to join in and listen in to, through the week. But it's pretty painful. It's like 10 hours a day for 4 days. So I'll be there, and I'll fill you in next week. So you can skip all that if you want. But this is the meat and potatoes, the meeting materials. This is going to show you the agenda, and it's interactive, so you can click on things. So the meeting starts out with admin and budget, where they talk about the budget and really boring stuff. Then we're going to move into habitat and restoration. They talk about some coral stuff a lot of times. This one is focused on aquaculture opportunity areas. Basically, they're trying to designate areas of the Gulf of Mexico to potentially explore doing aquaculture, which is interesting. Then there's the shrimp committee, which is all about, you guessed it, shrimp. They've been talking about the same thing now for probably about 6 years, trying to update the data program they have for the shrimp fishery. Very, very slow process. Mouse, Josh. Mouse? There it is. All right, perfect. So king mackerel recreational landings versus ACL. So this dotted line way up here at the top is the ACL, or annual catch limit. And then this blue line are landings. So you can see landings are typically around 3.5 million pounds. Our ACL is around 6 million. So we're only landing about half of our allowable catch limit. So that's a question mark. And then also you can see the landings are downtrending quite a bit since about 2015, 2014 time frame. 2014 was our last spike, and since then it has only decreased in the number of king mackerel caught. Commercial harvest, you can see commercial harvest was pretty much catching their catch limit, sometimes going a little bit above it, and you see commercial harvest has dropped off significantly. So recreational fishermen and commercial fishermen are not finding kingfish to catch and land. Interesting. There's been a lot of conversations around this. They've been discussing this. Fishermen have been bringing this up for 2 to 3 years, and now the Gulf Council is going to have a really, really big conversation surrounding it, because as you can see, all the information is showing some pretty healthy decreases in lengths at age, at catches. Pretty much a lot of indices are showing not good things for kingfish. So that'll be an interesting conversation Monday afternoon during the mackerel committee, kind of seeing where they're going to go with that. Then from 3:45 to 5:30 in the afternoon, you can see I have to speak about our Outreach and Education Technical Committee. This is all about outreaching and educating anglers across the Gulf of Mexico, as we're doing right now, hopefully. And then Tuesday, we get into reef fish. This is going to be a discussion around deep water grouper management measures, where they're discussing cutting 50% of our scamp grouper allocation, and I think around 50 to 60% of the snowy grouper and yellow edge allocation as well. So huge cuts being discussed for deep water grouper and scamp grouper as well. So that'll be very interesting to follow along with. And then also here we get into the lane snapper. The lane snapper is going to be very interesting. So basically we have this problem with lane snapper where it's a super healthy fishery. Look at these landings. All right, historically, very flat landings. Oh, thank you for making it bigger. So historically, very flat landings. And then, boom. Actually, this is misleading because they changed. They changed. This is when they changed the. No, they changed the denomination they count fish in. We used to be measured under CHTS, the Coastal Household Telephone Survey, and then they moved to FES, the Fishing Effort Survey. So this big jump is misleading. I'm wondering if they caught that yet. I need to call someone about that because that doesn't do it justice. But long story short, you guys know what's been happening with lane snapper. Super healthy fishery. We're seeing more of them. They're getting bigger. And then all of a sudden we're seeing closures at the end of the year because this super healthy fishery, we're catching a lot of them really quickly. And the quota gets filled up and then they close lane snapper on us. And then every year I keep saying, hey guys, it's a really healthy fishery. We're seeing more of them in more places. We need a bigger quota. So they look at it and they're like, you're right. We are catching a lot of them. It is healthy. Let's bump it up a little bit. And they give us a couple percentage points more quota. They increase the quota and then we hit it or exceed it again. And then the season closes again. And this has been going on since like 2019. So what I am proposing and what we're talking about doing is trying to set a minimum size limit to try to stop the closures, to try to cut back on limits on number of fish caught. So if we're catching too many fish too quickly, the minimum size limit to keep a lane snapper is 8 inches. So if we move it to maybe 10 inches, 12 inches, we'll be throwing some fish back, and then all of a sudden we're not catching and keeping as many. The quota won't be filled as fast, so then we'll be able to keep lane snapper open all year. That's my goal. So if you look at this handy dandy chart we finally have, it looks like if we make the size limit 10 inches, we're going to cut down on a little bit of landings, which should hopefully help us keep that season open all year long. Hopefully. Or maybe we move it to 12 inches, we cut down on a bunch of landings, and then we'll really definitely keep it open 12 years or 12 months of the year. But my goal is to do the minimal amount of change possible, minimal amount of damage possible, because this is a healthy fishery. Fishermen should not be punished because we have a healthy fishery. Let us catch a lot of fish. Let's manage just to the quota. There's no reason that we have to come in and be like, all right, so it's going to be 18 inches now for lane snapper. No, that doesn't make any sense. Let's make a small change. Just trim a little fat so we can keep that season open 12 months out of the year. Then I've been asking for them to do that for like 4 years. So then they finally do it and they finally present this paper and they throw this in here. I don't know how to say that nicely, but they throw Action 2 in there, which is to potentially modify the recreational bag limit of lane snapper. So I'm also the chair of the Refish Advisory Panel, and I get to speak during this part of the meeting too. And I also spoke at our Refish Advisory Panel meeting, and we emphatically encourage the council to throw the action out and not to consider it at all. And I will reiterate that emphatically at the meeting, that this is silly, shouldn't be included in the document, because why are you going to cut down our bag limit or restrict our bag limit on a healthy fish? Don't punish fishermen. It's a healthy fish. Let us catch them. So hopefully this won't be taken out completely and deleted because it's stupid. What else were we talking about besides the lane snapper? Then they go back into some IFQ stuff, which is not applying to our recreational fishery. Then it comes to more of the Refish AP stuff. The federal for-hire season, they're talking about potentially changing the federal for-hire red snapper season. You might hear more about that. It's not going to affect 2025. They'll be lucky if they can get this rule done in time for 2026. And what they're talking about doing is opening our federal for-hire season a little earlier, potentially like a couple days earlier, or potentially like mid-May instead of June 1st. But it will open June 1st, 100% 2025. So June 1st, 2025, red snapper will open. But there's going to be a conversation about changing that date for the future. Like I said, I doubt they'll get the rule done in time for 2026, but we'll see. We'll see how that conversation goes. Me personally, I don't really care when it opens. If it's a week earlier, 2 weeks earlier, okay, whatever. I would like to see it closed at the end of the summer, maybe like have it open June and July and then close it and then give us whatever quotas left over in November and December when it's cool and nice out. But unfortunately, the federal government is not that flexible or nimble. Surprise, right? Let's see. Then Wednesday rolls around. The recreational initiative is very interesting. That'll be discussed Wednesday morning. They're going to be talking about this recreational initiative, which is this big push that the Gulf Council is trying to do because they realize recreational fishermen are pissed. They heard us. So they realize recreational fishermen are pissed, and they realize that recreational fishermen are not happy with management measures, and there's a lot of problems with the way fishery management is structured for recreational fishermen. So this recreational initiative is essentially a way to try to novelly look at some approaches to recreational management, which is pretty interesting. So we'll kind of see how this shakes out. Right now it's really high level, lofty conversations, but it's interesting, and you have ways to get involved if you're interested in that conversation as well. And then the rest of it is red snapper accountability measure. That's boring. Law enforcement stuff where they talk about what they were doing offshore to try to catch people. And then public comment Wednesday afternoon. And then Thursday rolls into final, what do they call it? Full council. So that kind of wraps it up. So basically how the Gulf Council meetings work is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning are committee meetings where parts of the Gulf Council have discussions. The whole table is involved, but only a few people can vote. Then Wednesday afternoon is public comment when all the fishermen get a chance to talk about everything they've heard for the last 3 days and voice their opinions. And then Thursday, the whole table gets to vote, and they basically re-go over everything they already discussed, and they can change it, they can keep it the same, they can do whatever the heck they want. So it's really important that last day, because what happened the first 3 days can completely change, or it can stay the same. So you really need to be involved, and a lot of times it can change based on what happens at public comment. So it's very interesting. That's when the fireworks happen. Full council. All right, Michael Hios, what's up, man? Yeah, shoot me an email, info@Hubbard's Marina, and we can talk more about it. All right, let's do our first giveaway of the night, or second giveaway of the night. Sorry, Josh. 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Let's see who the lucky winner is. 5-hour half day for 2. Well, we got to redo that one, boys. Hang on, guys. Josh won a 5-hour.
I'm going Tuesday. Well, it works out.
Oh, you hit the wrong button, buddy. Full screen. Oh, Pip, yeah. All right. 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Let's see who won. Hopefully not Dylan Hubbard, because I did comment myself. That would have been funny. Todd Walters from Tampa. Congratulations, Todd Walters. You got 5 minutes or less to text us your full home address to the phone number on the screen. All right. That would have been messed up if we're like, sorry, guys. We won that one. It's funny. It's never picked that before, you know?
Yeah.
And that automatically comments every time. That shows you. Who knows? It's a random name picker. All right, so we got through most of our announcements. Let's get into some questions. Yeah, I know I didn't cover everything, but I want to get some questions. Maybe we'll have some time at the end. What are they going to do about Goliath grouper? Another great question. Another very interesting situation. So much like sharks, Gulf Council doesn't manage Goliath grouper. Goliath grouper are actually managed by the FWC, Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. And remember when I talked earlier about how people who live off the coast love to hug their sharks? Try going to an FWC meeting, folks. There's a lot of people that love to hug charismatic megafauna. And what I mean by charismatic megafauna is anything that can raise fundraising dollars for groups like PETA, manatees, black bears, sea turtles. Goliath groupers have suddenly become charismatic megafauna because people love going in the water and swimming with them and taking photos of them. It's pretty out of control. What's happened with Goliath grouper is they were closed in 1991, the year I was born, by the way. And they closed them, and they've been closed for so long, they lost any scientific pulse on that fishery. There was no scientific take allowed, so it's been really, really, really difficult to keep a pulse on the stock of Goliath grouper. And now they're trying to reopen Goliath grouper because they know pelicans are charismatic megafauna. You're right, Michael. Let's add that to the list as well. But they know there's too many Goliath grouper out there, and they want to try to open a season. And they've been trying for 8 years to open a Goliath grouper season, and they haven't gotten anywhere because anytime they discuss it, it's shot down by basically public outcry. So we talked before about how the Gulf Council meeting works, right? The first 3 days are discussion, then there's public comment, and then full council, and sometimes full council can change based on public comment. Well, the FWC commission meetings, folks, are, in my opinion, great staff, great people. The commissioners all seem to really care and try to do their best, but it is very, very socially driven. If enough people show up with Goliath grouper shirts and tears in their eyes when they go to the podium to talk about their dock pet, the Goliath grouper that they just love to go out there and feed every day, they just won't open a season. And they really respond to public pressure. And unfortunately, the public pressure to not open Goliath grouper is much stronger than the scientific support that says, hey, we got to open Goliath grouper. Goliath grouper eat hundreds of pounds of crustaceans. Florida lobster, spiny lobster, and stone crabs. They inhale, they vacuum the bottom of areas of lobster and stone crab. We really got to keep that population in check. Plus all the finfish they eat, the groupers, the snapper, all that kind of stuff. So FWC is trying. So a lot of people are upset with that really small FWC season that got open for Goliath grouper. Like they gave away I think 400 or 600 tags. It was some really small number of tags, and the fish had to be this big to this big. They had to be really small Goliath groupers. It was like crazy money to enter the lottery. A lot of people were pissed. I was really happy because you got to start somewhere. And no one was happy with that season. The environmentalists weren't happy, and the charismatic megafauna lover people weren't happy. The fishermen weren't happy because they wanted more tags. They wanted the tags to be cheaper. They wanted to catch the bigger fish. No one was happy, and what that means is that's a good compromise. Everybody was pissed. So now they have a starting point. They have some dead fish they can do some scientific data on, and as they collect more data on this stock, they're going to be able to objectively say, here's the science that proves that we should be able to harvest more of these fish and keep that population in check. And then they can't be as socially driven, or at least hopefully they won't be as socially driven, because science trumps social opinions, right? So hopefully we'll have that data that backs us up, and we'll be able to march in there and get a little bit more Goliath grouper season and access. But time will tell. It's a slow process. It's not as slow as the federal process, but it is pretty slow. All right. Let's see here. What other questions do we have? I was wondering what redfish are hitting inshore. They're on a crustacean feed, so use shrimp, or soft plastics. Mirror lure provoker has been Capt Mike's favorite lately in bone silver. Captain Mike Rogal was on the radio show last week and this week. Super good upper Tampa Bay Safety Harbor area fisherman. And that's like redfish mecca, and he was talking a lot about smaller baits, the smallest bait you can accurately cast. So smaller, like 4 or 5 inch soft plastics, light jig head, rigged weedless. And he was talking about how you want to let it sit Work it really slowly. So bounce it along the top of the grass, then let it fall into the grass. Let it sit for a couple seconds, then dart back to the top of the grass and let it sit for a couple of seconds. Keep working it like that, much like a shrimp. A shrimp is going to go into the grass. It might crawl along the top of the grass and then settle down into the grass. And then it'll flick if it's scared, and it'll crawl along the top of the grass, and it'll settle back into the grass. Shrimp don't move fast. Crustaceans don't move fast. They move fast in little spurts, and then they settle into the grass. Same thing that you're trying to mimic when you're using artificials. Also, cut dead bait. Look for the mullet, look for the birds, look for the bait. You'll find the redfish. Also, look for wind-protected shorelines. Sun-drenched shorelines as well. If you can find a wind-protected shoreline that is also sun-drenched, boom, you're in the money. What lure would you recommend to troll if you could only bring one or two for wahoo? I'd bring a Nomad DTX Minnow, and then I'd bring a Shimano Bonita. Boom. Maybe a Rapala X-Rap Magnum. So, one of those three. All available inside the store? Yes. Nah, I don't know if we have the Shimano Bonita anymore, but we have the Rapala and the Nomad. What kind of fish can be expected on the first 39-hour we catch this time of year? We're targeting those red grouper, big mangroves, yellowtails, muttons, almacos, porgies, vermilions. We should see some blackfin tuna, maybe a couple wahoo as well. I got a trip booked in March, and I didn't order pinfish yet. How long do I have to place an order? You can place an order for pinfish up to 48 hours prior to the trip. So if you have a trip March 28th, you can place your pinfish order March 26th, and we should have them for you. What's the shallowest you can catch scamp grouper in the summertime? I mean, if you were going out with me and you wanted to catch a scamp in the summer, I would be starting no shallower than about 120 to 140. But really, big scamp, consistent scamp, 160, 180. As you get closer to that 200-foot mark, we see quite a bit more. What would you say the couple... As a mate on a headboat, what would you say are a couple of the best tips that you wish you would have had known early on?
Should have worked for Hubbard's.
Is he saying he is a mate?
He is a mate on a headboat.
Oh, and he's asking the best tips. That's a good one, Josh. Listen to the captain and lose the attitude. It took me a while to learn that I'm not always right, and I didn't know everything. So being humble and being open to authority is a big one. You can learn a lot from the people around you. My dad always said, shut up and listen, and you have two ears and one mouth for a reason. And I just didn't like his tone. It took me a while to actually hear that and comprehend it, I guess. But yeah, it's important. I mean, listen, ask questions, learn, and soak up information. That'd be my biggest tips. If you're a mate on a headboat trying to learn the ropes. If we misunderstood your question and you meant something else, feel free to elaborate. Next question, why is red grouper the only grouper that has black larvae in them when you fillet them? Those aren't black larvae. Those are parasites, and they do get them. The little black worms, they're more common in warmer waters. This time of year, we see less of them. But I just cook it and eat it. You can cut them out if you're worried about it. But once they're cooked, they're fine. It's just extra protein. But some people do cut them out. But I think it has to do with the fact that they're very sedentary, and they're also more scavengers. They eat a lot of different things up off the bottom. They're eating that smelly dead bait. They're eating whatever they can find, and they're more sedentary. They're more kind of restricted in areas, potentially. I don't know. But you don't find it in scamp. You don't find it in gags. That's a great question. That's you know what would be cool, Josh, is when the FWC folks are around, have Philip do Ask a Biologist. It'd be a cool little segment.
We do have to get Meehan back, so...
Yeah, Meehan is not a biologist. Sweet baby Jesus.
I mean, we can do the whole...
But we could ask him, and it would be funny.
You're saying, questions for him.
Yeah. Why do red grouper get worms more than other grouper? That's a great question. Now I want to know more than others. And we will try to make a YouTube video about that. Video idea. Boom. It's written down. It's happening. What's the best trip to fill the freezer? A trip to the grocery store, my friend. And I say that in jest, but I mean, we offer fishing trips, right? And there's plenty of trips you can fill and will fill the freezer on. But I don't like the setting the expectation to let's go out and fill the freezer, because fishing is fishing, right? We guarantee an excellent client experience with superior guest service, and we try to control everything in our power, and we do our best to fill the freezer, as you would say. But it is fishing. Ultimately, we're going to work our tails off to put as many fish in the boat as possible. But if you want to fill the freezer, it sometimes can backfire on you. So honestly, you definitely can fill the freezer on our longer range trips. A 39-hour, a 44-hour is going to offer you a 2-day bag limit, your best opportunity to fill the freezer. But you can go out on a half-day trip, and if you're catching the gray snapper with ease with your spinning rod and a small chunk of shrimp or a small chunk of squid, you can catch a lot of gray snapper or white grunts pretty quickly and make a lot of tacos. So I don't know what your definition of fill the freezer is, but really any of the trips offer you the opportunity to catch fish. I don't recommend freezing them, but to each their own. And the longer the trip, the deeper you're going to go, and those 39-hour trips give you a 2-day bag limit. So more fishing time and the ability to bring home more. And like I said, you can fill the freezer, but I don't like that expectation placed, because sometimes it is fishing, right? And sometimes it is a little bit tougher. If you go into it with the hope of filling the freezer, that's better. And sometimes you will. Sometimes you'll fill up 2 freezers. And we have Don's Dock Seafood Market, where you can always fill your freezer as well. What trips do you plan to run with the new boat? So the new boat we launched this past Friday was a pontoon boat to replace the one that we just sold. And it is going to be running our 3-hour shell key shelling trip. It's not a fishing boat. What other questions do we have, Josh? Did we get through everything?
Alley stuff. Best year to catch hogs.
Best time of year to catch hogfish is right now. Right now. Cooler months, October, November-ish through like March, April-ish. Best time to catch the hogfish for sure. Can captain and crew keep a limit of yellow edge grouper and queen snapper? I think so. I don't know off the top of my head. We don't fish for those fish anymore. We used to do a 63-hour. Our area got real beat up fast, so we don't do that type of fishing anymore ourselves. So I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think you can right now. I don't know. I'd have to check that myself. Shoot me an email, info@hubbardsmarina.com, and I can look that up for you. How does the water temperature, being as cold it is, affect the bite? We covered that pretty heavily in the beginning of the show. What's the best trolling setup for blackfin tuna? I like the Rapala X-Rat Magnums for blackfin. You can get them on the Nomad DTX too, but I find the Rapala is just a little smaller and has a pretty good hookup ratio. When does the black tip migration end? I mean, we see the black tips move in more in the summer, so they're around. The locals are here through the winter, but the heavy numbers are definitely in the summer. And they're leaving more and more with that cooler water, swimming out deeper. The little babies hang out. They get born at the end of summer, and they hang out, and they get bigger, and then they swim offshore. So that's what we're encountering right now, is those babies that are swimming offshore. All right, I think we covered pretty much everything we needed to cover tonight, plus we're a little over on time. Josh, what time will our supporters after show start? 8:55. All right, supporters after show, 8:55. Hopefully we see you there. It's only $4.99 of a month to join us. You get access to our private group, our private after show, and a good time. So definitely join us there. Lures were the Rapala X-Rap Magnum, Nomad DTX, and Shimano Bonita for the Wahoo. I like a Rapala X-Rap Magnum for the Blackfin Tuna myself, but the Nomad DTX Minnow works really well too. We carry them. Gator Gyms has them. T.A. Mahoney's has them. All really good options for you. All right, let's get into our 39-hour giveaway. The 39-hour giveaway is brought to you by our friends Innovative Pools and Spa. Innovative Pools and Spa has been there for 35 years. They've got 35 years of experience building pools in the Tampa Bay area. They continue the legacy of their father's company, recognized as a top pool builder in the Tampa Bay area. Plus, they continue to raise the bar in pool construction, design, and features. They have an unparalleled passion for the industry, and they have a really great team over there. Really good people. Call them today, 727-788-1650, or visit them online at innovativepoolsandspa.net for an estimate and see why Innovative Pools and Spa is a top choice for families in our community. All right, 39-hour giveaway. One lucky winner. 39-hour trip, $499 value. Let's see who got $500 free tonight. Lucky winner is Michael Perro from NJ, another New Jersey. It's the night of New Jersey in here tonight. So congrats, Mike. You got 5 minutes or less to text us your full home address to the phone number on the screen. The rest of you guys, hopefully we'll see you next week for another chance to win. Tell your friends. Bring a friend next week. Help us spread the word of the show. Hopefully you guys had a good time tonight. Hopefully we helped you out. Next week we're going to cover a little bit about what happened at the Golf Council meeting. Plus we're going to get into your questions. Plus we're going to talk more about what you guys want to hear and maybe something interesting that happened this upcoming week because the weather is gorgeous. If you were thinking about getting out on a trip, this is the time to do it. Take advantage of it. We'll see you for the supporters after show here at 8:55. Thanks for watching and thanks for being a part of our Hubbard's Marina family. We appreciate y'all. We're